thankful that Reverend Winston was willing and ready to step in and come in and provide service for us last year. Last year, we had a pretty good class, too.
Yes, ma'am.
That's awesome. Anybody want to share with you some things we talked about, or anything you learned, anything you got out of it? I'm opening the floor for anybody. I'm trying to get this thing under wraps, but I'm listening. Anybody? Somebody share something with me now. Okay, this is John. Go ahead.
He shared with us his struggle that he's going through, his health struggle.
Yeah.
He was very encouraging. He told about how he has gotten bad news this year, but this year has been the best year of his life because, in essence, he had become closer to the Lord.
Wow. That is pretty powerful.
Yeah, and he was telling how he had gotten a couple of bad news issues, but he wasn't worried because he knew where his help comes from.
You know, we hear about this and we talk about it and we study about it, but it amazes me when I see or when I experience people who are in what is considered some of life's darkest moments, but then they come out of it with a deeper and a stronger faith.
Amen.
It blows my mind because, you know, we talk about God being a present help in times of trouble and helping us when we're in the valley, but nobody wants to go in the valley.
Right.
But when we go in the valley and we see what happens and what people learn and how the valley can affect them and change them, then it ought to make us not as nervous about it when it comes in our lives.
Amen.
So that's good to hear that he was able to share that firsthand, because we've kind of seen from a distance some of the news and some of the things he's been dealing with, and to see him still saying that this is one of the best years of his life, that's faith right there.
Amen.
Amen. Anybody else?
Hey, I went here, but somebody told me that you talk about his sickness, and then they say you were related to the Bible.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They had scripture with it. I said, that's something.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to learn from the Word when we in those moments, and then when we share the testimony about what God has done, we talk about it from a Word perspective so that everybody else can find answers as well.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
I remember him when he was saying it was what he went through, what he's going through right now is where he was supposed to be. He took to get to that point to learn that that's where he's supposed to be.
Wow. That's good. That's good.
Deny yourself.
Yeah. That's a hard thing we say, and a lot of times we say we deny ourselves, but we still, our feelings are still a little bit more alive than they need to be in order for us to be used by God. That's great. Anybody else?
He also told us to be careful with our intuneness with God.
Without what?
With our intuneness.
And tuneness?
And to obey the Lord, even if it doesn't make sense at that point. Just have faith and walk out on faith and do it anyway.
That's the truth right there. Having faith really doesn't always make sense to your natural mind. As a matter of fact, if you can figure everything out, you ain't really living by faith.
Right.
It's not until you encounter some things that you can't grasp in your mind and that you can't figure and find your own way that you really have to turn your mind off and rely on faith. But the faith is what connects us with God. God didn't really get a good opportunity to become real in your life until you yield yourself over to your faith. So a lot of times it takes what are very painful and dark moments in our lives for us to get to that point, but that ought to be a growth moment for us. All right, anybody else?
One more.
Yeah.
The scripture maybe came from Matthew 6 chapter 33rd verse.
Yep.
It said, "But ye seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you."
Wow, that's good. And what was the baseline for that thought being the text he used? Did he share anything on that?
Well, personally, for what I got out of it, basically everybody else said, the time, for his illness, he had time to really spend time with God and seek Him first, without trying to seek the doctors,
Right.
and the family and world, and friends or anything like that. He spent time with God.
To really put God first and then align everything else that was going on underneath what he was getting from God. That's good. That's good. That's exactly what it is. Anybody else?
Matthew 6 chapter 33rd.
633, yeah.
That was to the room too last week.
Elder Reverend, you had something, sir?
Yes. I was in a Bible study over at Friendship Community Church in Georgia,
Yeah.
And I was just going through the minister's presentation last week,
Yeah.
and as everybody was talking, I was just going through his outline. And then I said, lo and behold, the last one, Matthew 6:33. And his particular topic was, I engage in unrestrained worship, and I maximize the opportunity to worship God with mine. He just gave us, just fill in your, with your
Whatever pertains to you, yeah.
Right, and then it was Matthew 6:33.
Yeah.
And then he expounded on that. So I said, well, I was in the right place.
Yeah, yeah. And what's so amazing about God's word, he gives a baseline text that covers multiple life situations. Like you take that text, even though we all got different situations, that truth of that text applies to them all. It doesn't matter what your all these things are, if you seek first the kingdom, and what else? His righteousness. See, we miss that part sometimes. Seek the kingdom, his way of doing things, what he's doing in his realm, and then his righteousness, meaning his truth and his way of handling it. And then once you do those two things, God comes in and says, I got you covered with the rest of it. Let me add to you what's needed for you to be whole and complete in this particular situation you're dealing with. A lot of times we're wanting to get to the God part where he does his part, but we haven't sought first the kingdom, nor have we sought his righteousness. Amen. We might seek the kingdom, we might seek our own righteousness, do what we think is right. But we can't determine what we think is right. We got to be humble and submitted enough to him to once we know what the kingdom says, do what he says do. Okay? Anybody else? Anybody else? All right, well, I had a chance to speak with him and to express my gratitude to him, and I'm thankful that we all were able to learn something and grab hold to the example that God has used him for, because what he's gone through was not just for his benefit, for him to grow stronger. We can learn from it as well. And we can be encouraged by what we've seen him, and I don't know how many of y'all were here the Sunday Elder Horton shared his testimony. God is doing some amazing things in the lives of his people. And we can all be encouraged by that because we all serve the same God. That's the good news in it. All right, anything else going on anybody want to share? Before I forget, session, y'all help me out here. Is next week the week we talked about?
Next week, next 2 weeks. Next 2 weeks.
All right, so we will, after tonight, we won't meet. I don't have dates in front of me.
December 27th, 29th.
The 22nd and the 29th, we will not meet. We'll meet back here on
December the 6th.
December the 6th, okay? All right, everybody got that? So tonight will be the last night in November. And then we'll come back December the 6th. Did you talk to the other classes?
Yes, I talked to everyone except the junior class teacher, but everybody else, so the majority say yes.
So they're going to meet or they're not going to meet?
They're not going to meet.
Okay, so nobody will meet.
Nobody's going to meet. It'll be announced in the bulletin
Okay.
at church Sunday.
All right, anything else? All right, I'm having some technical difficulties, so I'll just read what we were going to talk about and then we can talk about it. The assignment was how many parables did Jesus tell? That was the first part. And then we're going to talk about some of our favorite parables and why. But first of all, how many parables did Jesus tell? Who knows? I'm not loud to 46. What'd you say?
Between that and 60.
Between that and 60.
We're talking about so many that was in the different gospels. Like
Yeah.
3:28 and John.
That's what makes it tricky because I was listed a lot of times. Anybody got anything besides 46 or 60? What did he say?
Yeah.
The answer I was looking for was 46. Because when you really break it down chronologically, and this is what I was really going to try to share with you on the screen, but I do have a list of them. It breaks them out into chronological order with which gospel they're in, so that you can kind of see which ones. A lot of them are kind of in the same area, so it's kind of hard to identify them, but it's actually 46 total, okay? All right.
So that's some of them are the same with different gospels.
Right, yes. Some of them are the same, and some of them are in all three gospels, the synoptic gospels. Y'all remember what the synoptic gospels are?
Matthew, Mark, Luke.
All right, y'all gonna get in trouble if y'all ain't know this time. That's good. That's where you're gonna find most of the parables, are Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and some of them are in all three. Anybody know what the lost chapter was? What book was it in?
Luke 15.
Very good, Luke 15. Why is it the lost chapter? Is it missing from the Bible? No. What makes it lost? Very good. Three things are lost: sheep, the coin, and the son. Very good. All right, who has the favorite parable they want to talk about? Favorite parable? Nobody has a favorite parable? Well,
Hey, I can relate to that, prodigal son.
amen. All right. You want to say anything about it? What makes it stick out to you?
Oh, I just thought, everybody know my past about how I strayed away. I grew up in church and
Yeah.
I ain't there for my riches, but when I got about 15 or 16 and I told my father, if I didn't, when I get old enough that you don't make me go to church, I wasn't coming no more.
Yeah.
And he told me, whatever I do the best of it. I couldn't serve two gods. And I always wanted to see the other side.
Yeah.
On one side, all my uncles was like everybody had fun. And all I had to do, I was made to go to church every Sunday from gospel to church all day Sunday, all day Sunday.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff I couldn't do, and because I was trying to do the right thing, I just want to get out there and do this and so-called be right. So,
Right.
So I told him, I'm going to try this other side for a while.
Yeah. Okay.
And he told me, when you get out there, just, do the best. Whatever you're going to do your best.
Yeah.
And so I got out there and stayed a little too long.
Yeah.
And I stayed out there some 30-some, I guess about 17 to about 49.
That's what I was going to ask. If you didn't mind me asking, how old were you? So you was about 17?
I got out of high school. I started in high school when he told me about it. And then he told me I only had to get 17. So
Yeah.
from that point on, it was on the other side. Serving the devil all the time.
Yeah.
Then the bad part about that, while he was out there, and some of the people I was running with, they told me, you from a good family, why are you out here?
Yeah.
You weren't supposed to be out here. Then you get numb to it. That's why I try to tell these young people, when you get numb to it, doing right, doing the easy became easy. So what I thought I believed in, I kept turning away from it. Sinning became easier.
Right.
Easier and easier and easier. But it got to the point where I prayed that I didn't die in those streets. I asked God, let me get back. I had a plan though. I had a plan to go out there
Right.
and come back.
Right.
I had a plan. I was gonna be in the streets at 50.
Yeah.
But I came close to it though. But I prayed one night and I just couldn't take it no more. And I had it in my head that all my family turned against me and you get so crazy thoughts and I experienced it and I did what I set out to do. And like a man in the hog pen, I lost everything I had. I lost his car.
Yeah.
And it didn't have to be like that. Just like a good son, and he was doing the right thing, and he.
Yeah.
But that's what I had to go through to get back. I look back on it and I thank God that I went through it. And because if I hadn't, I'd been wondering. And I still would be able to serve God because I've been still trying to wonder what if I had did this, what I missed, what I didn't. Now I know, what I was out there trying to find. I had fun.
Yeah.
And while the fun got sickening.
Yeah.
Then God gets you to the point and take you up and you bring yourself down and get to the point where you get tired of doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you get tired, you got to change your people, places, and things. If I change and still hang around the same people with me, so I had to make a whole complete. And I started coming to church here, and I look at Lawrence and look at Tony, they just smiling. They so intelligent, but they so happy about that. And David like I was preaching.
take just what he said right there and break every part of the prodigal son story to you and make it real. But hopefully you can take from it what's needed. But let me ask you and ask everybody something. You was out there from 17, you said to how old, 49?
I guess 49, 40 and 49, yeah.
Did God stop keeping him when he was out there? Isn't that amazing?
I think he protects us even more when we're out there. Because
That-
at some point, you're still acknowledging that he exists. I
Right.
think he protects us even more when we're unaware. Dangerous seen and unseen.
Right.
But you know, and the bad part about that, sometimes I was gonna come back, and I was gonna talk to some Christians. They tell me you need to get right with
You're
it.
right, yeah. We talked about the danger in that
And I
being
told
said,
them,
not really
and I
understood.
told them that, you know, I grew up in church. I knew that ain't right.
Right. What I was gonna say is, the reason he was kept, that's really grace and mercy right there. That's personified.
Yeah, yeah.
It's grace keeps you and mercy extends the time.
Yeah.
You said you felt like you was out there a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
Mercy gave you the time that was needed for
Yeah.
you to encounter the change that was needed in your heart.
But you know, I can say everybody around was dead.
Wow.
In prison. And one day we had Reverend John brought the county sheriff over here, and
Yeah.
they had a narcotic. I can't think of his name. He did. Good tall black dude. And he used to see me. And he told me at church here. He said, "You ever thought that we didn't get you because God helped you?" He said, "Either we would see you coming from a drug bus or see you going." And he told me, "No, we never did get you." But when he said, "No, God, we got everybody you ready with."
Protects his own.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It says in the Bible, train a child in the way he should go. When he's old, he will not depart from it.
Yeah, and he also even acknowledges many times that he knew his mom was praying for him, he knew the people was praying for him. And you hear what he said. He said the devil made him think that his people would turn their back on him. That's what he wants you to think.
Yeah.
Because if he can keep you disconnected from what's true love in the form of God, then he can keep you by yourself, and he can do more damage to you by yourself. But when you get around other believers and you get around people that genuinely love you, it begins to create a boundary between you and him, because you now start to get closer to the love of God.
Yeah.
And that's why we have to not take for granted the opportunities that we have to pray for people, pray for our loved ones. A lot of times, I mean, if that's your child, you know they're out there, you know you don't want them out there, but you can't go and make them come back, because if they haven't made up their mind to come back, they're going to come back, they're going to go back out. But you can love them and do what's needed from them where you are, and God can be where they are. So we have to have the wisdom to know that, because that's what's going to comfort us when we have the pain of them being out there and we know we don't want them out there. But I thank you for being transparent and sharing. That's powerful. Anybody else got any questions or comments on that?
I just see him also as he had a good foundation
Yes.
to begin with. His
Yes.
dad and his mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to encourage people to have young kids to keep them in church and close to the church. Because if you give them that foundation, they might stray away. But I promise you, they're going to come back. They might leave for their life. But on the other hand, if they don't have nothing to stand on, they don't have nothing to go back to.
You're right. She's absolutely right. That ties in together with what Elder Jones was saying. And if you remember, that was one of the blessings of the prodigal son.
Yeah.
He had the benefits of what he learned at home in the beginning. And that's why I love that he described it when he came to himself. He came to himself. He remembered what was rightfully his, and remembered the love that protected him when he was at home. And that's what he longed for when he was out in the world. So we too, if we were taught the right way, if we were trained the right way, no matter how far away we go from it, there will come a point in time where the void that we have will not be fulfilled by anything that's around us, because it doesn't match what we know to be true and what we experienced back home.
But Rev, the last night that I came in, I came home, I guess, about 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And I prayed. I prayed from, I don't know, and I told God I wasn't going to stop praying till you heal me this day. And then light came so bright, I covered my head, They on.
You up here teaching something. Because what he's describing there, y'all, please hear me right here. You aren't really ready for a God change until you are fed up. And what he's describing is really when you get fed up and you surrender. At that point, God can't come in until you surrender. And some people can long for home, but they're not ready to come home. And it's not until you get sick and tired of being sick and tired and you really are ready to submit, that's true repentance. But that's the change. And you remember he said he ain't been back since. Because he was really ready at that point. God was ready all along. But you had to be ready to just turn it over to him.
14 years.
14 years. Bless you, man. Bless you, brother. I thank God for you. Thank God for you. All right, anybody else? Yes, sir.
I got one. I was looking at a picture on TV of just magnificent. It reminded me of what he was saying, but his guy, name of it, I fell in love with a church. And I just think that was one of the best pictures. I would like to find that.
I still haven't seen all of that.
And when the bottom line is, it's about this guy faith
Really?
at the end.
Yeah.
Because he was a drug dealer.
Yeah.
And he turned to his mom. They was always in church. They always coming to the church.
Yeah.
But once his mom died, he kind of lost his faith with God.
Right.
He was gonna marry this girl, and she got in a car accident. And when the doctor was talking that she might not make it, he said, "Well, I got one more man to talk to." And he went to God. And I like to find them just for the church, have and bring it.
Yeah.
But it's a real good look.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you talking about that, sharing that. Yeah. Anything that we can see how we can go through phases of our lives and see two things. One, how God spares us when we're not really focused on him. And then the changes that happen when somebody makes up their mind they really want to be for real. And you can begin to see the power of God, how it comes in. And what amazes me is how God can then take even the mistakes of your past and strategically place good things in your past that helps make your story and your testimony complete where you are now. And then you begin to see that even though you were in a pit, in a dark moment, it was designed for you to be able to help somebody else that's in that same dark moment. Because you...
I got one more thing I want to do.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I had some dark days. I got robbed. I got hit in the head with a tie. I got 300 of stitches, 100 stitches inside, and 100 stitches outside. I came home, Mama said, "Boy, don't go to sleep." I said, "No, I didn't call the police. If I was going to die, I was die at home."
Yeah.
You can see inside of my head. And the doctor told me that, I was supposed to be dead.
Yeah.
I was just so crazy. I just would want to know how many stitches I had so I can go out and find the person who did it. So I can get him to send me another stitch.
Yeah.
That's just crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
never had so messed up. And so I'm wearing 300 stitches. So all that wasn't good.
Yeah, I know. This is not always pretty.
It's not pretty.
It's not always pretty. But look at how God is using you. How he's because it's a lot of people's lives that ain't pretty. A lot of people in here right now, your lives and your past haven't been pretty. But it ain't about being pretty, it's about clinging to God's perfection. And all of us, no matter how dark our past has been and how much dirt is in our lives, we all have same access to the same perfection, and that's Jesus Christ. And if you don't know that, then you'll identify with your own imperfections and you'll never start looking at how God sees you. And God sees you as Jesus is, if you believe. And that's what you got to understand is that when you are a true child of God and you're lending yourself to walking this walk of faith, God no longer sees you in your filth.
Right.
He no longer sees you as what you did. He sees you as Jesus is because of the blood. But if you don't have the blood, then you're standing in your own sin. And then you are causing yourself to be disconnected from God. His love is not restricted from you, but it can't come to you until you step out of yourself and then realize who He's made you to be. And that's what our Christian life is really all about. It's us learning the difference between who we thought we were and who God really says we are. That's what all of us are walking out. We all going to heaven if we're believers. That's our final destination. But on the way, He's changing everything about how we look and who we are and what we're about now, so that we can see and identify with Him in our perfected state when we see Him face to face. Okay? Questions, comments? Is this making sense?
Yes. When you really have a problem, is when you don't think that you think you're so good until you know, just so good, I don't do nothing, and always pointing the finger at somebody else.
Yeah, you got some major
You
problems.
gotta check your own self.
Amen. Say that. Yeah, if you ever, one of the most dangerous things you can do is always hear God's word for somebody else. If it don't speak to you first, you check yourself. There's nothing wrong with sharing what you know and what you're passionate about with somebody, but don't listen for the word to try to tell somebody else what they ought to be doing. It should speak to you first. I don't care who you are. Whenever I'm preparing to teach or speak or preach, it need to talk to Tremaine first before I can do anything to help anybody else. So that's the truth right there. And then when you do go to help somebody, you'll do it from a place of love, because you know you needed help yourself.
Right.
All right? Questions, comments? All right, anybody else got any? Yes, sir.
30 seconds.
32nd one. I'm going to take my list down. Tell me which one it is.
Okay, it's got the worker in the vineyard in the kingdom of heaven.
All right, which book you coming from?
It's coming from Matthew, the 20th chapter, 1st through the 16th.
Matthew 20, verses 1 through 16. All right, you going to summarize for us?
Yes.
Matthew 20, verses 1 through 16 is what he's speaking from. And, yeah, okay. All
It's
right, go
talking
ahead.
about, we use this scenario. A farmer decided that he needs some workers to
Yep.
work on his farm. And he asked people to come in to work.
Yep.
The ones that got that first group of people that come, he said he gonna pay them all one year. And the first group coming in, then another group come in about, I think about 9 hours. Then another group come in, well, one come in 3 hours, and one come in 9 hours. Then another group come in, the last hour, the 11th hour. And he told the farmer of the group to pay him.
Yep.
And the one that come in at 11 hours, he gave him a denarius. Then the one that was there the first hour, he gave him a denarius. And the one that was there the first hour got mad because he was getting the same thing that the rest of them was getting. So what this is in reference to, we have to be very careful when we look at people that come to church. We as Christians being in church, I can go back and look at the older people. If you weren't in church and been in church all your life, they say you're going to hell. But God, when He looks at it, the one that got that come in the 11th hour, the last hour, got the same thing, same reward as the rest of them. And if you say, if I've been in church, about all my life. But if somebody decides they want to come next Sunday, I'm not going to get no more reward than he will get. So we have to be very careful.
Okay, I got you. And how does that relate to the prodigal son?
I was going to connect it because the older son got mad because the prodigal son was getting the same thing he was getting, and he got mad because he told his father he been there all the time, and you didn't have no party for me.
Right, that's exactly right. So God, like he's saying, God doesn't put any determination on the length of our service. It's the sincerity of our heart when it comes to Him. And that's all that matters to Him. If you're sincere today and you come to Him, you have the same love that covers and guides and gifts and blesses you as somebody that's been loving and connected with God 50 plus years.
That's just like Mama brother. She had a brother called Skeet. He never went in church and nothing. He got sick. Reverend go there and talk to him, and he was hard. He had a red white. I don't believe this. I don't believe that. But at the end, he called and said he wanted to join church.
Yeah.
Just like Lon said, he got the same reward. They just say you can dad well and that. Dad did, and dad was in church all these years.
Yeah.
He confessed God before he died. So he got, he was right at minute, he got the same blessing that Dad did, Dad did for the short time that he did believe.
Yeah.
So I think that's what Lon was saying about that. You got the same blessing.
It's exactly right, and it's also a danger, like he was saying, it's dangerous for us to try to determine when somebody has made their connection with God. You never know. Yeah, so even if someone appears to have died and you never saw them or heard them or whatever, be careful about making a judgment call on what has happened to them. You know, at that moment you just pray that God's mercy has connected with them in a way to where they had a connection with God that you may not have been privy to. Now obviously we want to help anybody that we feel like we can, but never feel like you have to see what God has done for somebody.
And we have to be very careful how we look at people. And you might say this man that's out there is a drunk, a drug addict, and he's been out there all his life. But if that man accepts God in his life, even though he's a drug addict, he's going to heaven. Now he might lose rewards for not doing what he should be doing, but he's going to heaven. I can look back at some of my uncles and things. They talked about them being drunkards and nothing. You got to be careful. You don't know if that man will accept God.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing. Anybody else?
I would just like the class to take down the scripture. This is the parable of the weeds. That was really, as I was going through all the parables and trying to get the one I like the best, but this one really is stuck with me. So if you would just write down Matthew, the 13th chapter, verses 24 through 30. Verses 24 through 30. Matthew, the 13th chapter. That's the parable of the weeds. Then Jesus explains it in Matthew, the 13th chapter, 36 through 43. Matthew 36 through 43. I just want you to read what Jesus said and what he explained. And if you read it in at least 2 different translations, you'll really get an understanding of it. I can explain it, but I'll be here till the end of the class. So that's why I just gave the scripture to you.
And this is actually my favorite parable also. So you're right on time. This is my favorite too. Go ahead. You gonna touch on it? Or?
No, you can
All
tell.
right, let's go ahead and turn to that. Well, I'll tell you what, that's what we're going to study on. But anybody else have a parable they wanted to share before we get to that?
The one like is several of them. The one that I kind of relate to recently is the new cloth on the old coat and new wine. And that one I say more now because lately, you know, I've been kind of up and down. And I noticed some things I still want to hold on to, but at the same time I noticed some things that you want me to get to. So I know I can't keep patching up something I'm trying to hold on to it and it just tear what's new off.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're kind of ready to be worn out in the other ones.
Very good. And that's a very good lesson to learn as God takes you to new levels, new places, because you can't really experience the new things of God if you're holding on to what's old. Nor can new life exist in a dead body. So dead things have to die so that life can come forth. And when you're living and walking with Jesus, there is no death of anything that's of him because he's the resurrection. So anything that is dying, that is actually falling away, it means it's not for you. So let it die. Bury it, have a funeral. Move forward and start finding out what's alive. don't deal with dead things. All right. Thank you. Anybody else?
I like this.
All right, you jump up now. Go ahead.
Oh, I like the one, about the lender, the money lender,
Yeah,
that let the circuit fraud run.
yeah.
And, I like that one. It's a good lesson on forgiveness.
Forgiveness, yes.
Showing that, the same mercy that the Lord, gives to you, you should pass that on to the next person.
Very good.
Pass it on to
Yeah, that is a good one.
And it's in Matthew 18:21 to 30.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. That is. That's a very good one. All right, Miss, go ahead.
Mine is a Good Samaritan, and I like it because it has action, drama, love, story, suspense, all in one. But my favorite part about it is that when the Samaritan, the Jew and the Samaritan didn't have any feelings, and the fact that everybody else who should have helped the Jew passed him by, the one that they were always battling against, he ended up helping him. And the Jew happened to be what they would call the better of the two, because the Samaritan would be considered a dog, and the Jews were considered the uppity great people. You know, so the fact that he helped him, and not only that, but at the end of the story, he said, when I come back through, if there's anything else that's owed, I'll pay it too. So it's like going that above and beyond to extend that love to somebody who you know would hate you any other time. And that's just love to the limit. But the suspense and stuff is all at the beginning, you know, because you just didn't know who was going to help him until you read the story.
Anybody else? All right. So, like I said before, it's good to begin to identify with these parables. Jesus told them for a reason, and there's life lessons even for today in every parable that he shared and that he taught. I do want to move to the sweet tales, but before I do, I want to give you, let's look at Luke 16, verse 9. I think it starts at verse 19. Luke 16th chapter. And this is number 4 in your book. On page 14 is number 4. It calls it Dives and Lazarus, but I want to. Does anybody know what that dives means? Whose name that is, if it's a name? It's number 4 in your book. It says Dives and Lazarus. Dives is a Latin word for rich man. You've heard of the rich man, Lazarus? So if you, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. So if you see that word dives, it's a Latin word for a rich man. That's what it's talked about in this story. So the rich man and Lazarus, y'all talk to me. What happened in that story?
He tried to get the bread.
Page 14. Page 14, number 4 in the book. I'm sorry, okay, go ahead.
Is this where he wanted the bread from the dog and hit him and
Yep.
the rich man went to hell and he came back and told him to tell his brothers come down here. That's long story short. Rich man went to hell and poor man went to heaven.
Yep. They both died the same day. You're right. One went to heaven, one went to hell.
And he told him, let me just dip your pain in the water, put it on my tongue, and tell my brother don't come down here because it's dead.
And what's the message in that parable? What's the underlying message Jesus was talking about?
Treat everybody the same.
Yeah, treat people like you want to be treated.
Very good. Treat people like you want to be treated. What were you saying?
Like I said, treat everybody the same.
Absolutely. What were you saying?
That was fine.
Hell is fine. Yeah, that is the message, isn't it? Because if you hear it in the message, he was saying, I can't come to you.
Yeah.
You know, so there it is. Once you've made that determination and you're eternally separated from God, there is no compromise. Grace and mercy is no more. So you're eternally separated from the love and the things of God. And that is a message that needs to be paid close attention to in this. But the underlying message is treat others as you would like to be treated and to extend mercy and love to those while you have the opportunity.
And don't look down on them.
Don't look down on people. All those things. Very good. All right, I just wanted you to know what that word dives meant, okay? The next one I want to touch on, like I said, I'm not going to read all of these. Let's look at number 8. Matthew, the 13th chapter, this is the sower. Let's turn in our Bibles to that, Matthew the 13th chapter. And it's setting the stage for the one that Elder Reddick was speaking about. Matthew the 13th chapter. And yeah, let's start at verse 3. Now, yeah, let's start at verse 3. Matthew 13, verse number 3. Somebody read that.
And he spake many things unto them in parables, saying, Behold, a sower went forth to sow.
All right, let me set the stage that she's going so we can go ahead and talk about it as we go. Does anybody know who the sower would be here? He went out to sow. Who do you know that sows seeds in your life? The minister, the preacher. So this is as someone who is standing in a place where they are sharing what are seeds that could germinate into something good. Okay, so that's who the sower is. Okay, all right, go ahead.
And when he sowed, some seeds fell by the wayside, and the fowls came and devoured them up.
All right, so he sowed, he preached, she spoke. They shared the seeds that God had given them, and some fell along the path. So this is describing what happens when you, as a mouthpiece of God or a worker of God, shares what he tells you to share. And what you need to pay attention is that at the end of this thing, you're not ultimately responsible for what happens with the seeds.
No.
A lot of times, we want to share seeds, but we want to force people to eat it and to get it right then and there. We got to be careful about that. And we also have to recognize what the person is able to receive will determine how effective they are with the seeds. Okay? All right, I'm going to let her read straight through this time. Go ahead, Sister Carter.
Some fell upon stony places, for they had not much earth. And forthwith they sprung up, because they had no deepness of earth. And when the sun was up, they were scorched. And because they had no root, they withered away. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns sprung up and choked them. But other fell into good ground, and brought forth fruit, some an 100-fold, some 60-fold, some 30-fold. Who had ears to hear, let him hear. And the disciples came and said unto him, Why speakest thou unto them in parables? He answered and said unto them, Because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given. For whosoever hath, to him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance, but whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away, even that he hath.
That's beautiful now. That's another one I want to get into, but I won't be able to. All right, let's go back to this sower, first of all. Somebody with another translation will read verses 4 through 9 real quick.
While the farmer was scattering the seeds, some of it fell along the road and was eaten by birds. Other seeds fell on thin, rocky ground and quickly started growing because the soil wasn't very deep. But when the sun came up, the plants were torn and dried up.
What's happening there? All right, the first one, let's talk about what happened with the first one. Some seeds fell on the path, the birds came and ate them up. What does that describe?
When you hear and just don't do.
Yeah.
I mean, you listen, but you're not comprehending.
Very good. You heard a good message, but then somebody said something to you in the hallway. And what you had just received was taken from you before it even had a chance to do anything. That's what that's described. All right? Or you just weren't really paying attention. You was just there. And then when somebody left, they still said something to you, and you still got as upset as you would have any other time.
It could have been that the pastor used so many big words that you didn't understand.
Big words, you couldn't understand.
No, sometimes pastor, I mean,
That can't happen.
you ain't on TV, they be using all kind of stuff.
That
you
can't
don't
happen.
understand.
That can't happen, and it does ain't gonna be doing
No, I'm just saying,
But seriously, that does happen. But if you, that does happen. And it is a danger to that person that's speaking because you want to speak in parables in a way that people can hear.
Right.
But if you really want to hear from God,
Uh-huh.
something can be said that you can hold on to. It should be, if they're speaking as a mouthpiece of God. But yeah, that can happen, but that's not an excuse.
Oh, okay.
All right, everybody good? So that's what's happening there. All right, now, the next one. What was the next one? Is it verse 5?
Other
Yes.
seeds fell on thin rocky ground and quickly started growing because the soil wasn't very deep.
Wait a minute, where was the one? Okay, yeah. So other seeds fell on rocky ground where there wasn't much soil, and they sprang up quickly since the soil wasn't deep. What does that mean? Trey?
So like you heard a word and it spoke to you like for that moment, but you didn't really meditate on it and let it take root.
Boy, you been studying it. Y'all got that? Exactly right. It spoke to you. It connected with you. But for a minute, right. You didn't meditate, didn't let it germinate and continue on through the next week or the next day or whatever. So it felt good for a moment, but it didn't last long. I've heard people say before, they were in a good service and they said, preacher, show didn't preach. Where the preacher? I don't know. It was good. That's kind of what that's talking about. It was emotionally fulfilling to you at that moment, but it didn't last very long. Okay? Y'all heard that too? All right, let's keep going.
Just go to 7,
What was 6?
was saying.
Yeah. And that's the rest of it. So let's go to 7.
Some other seeds fell where a thorn bush grew up and choked the plant. But a few seeds
Wait
did
a minute.
fall.
All right, so that's the next one. Others fell among thorns, and the thorns came up and choked them. What's that talking about? What are the thorns?
Hanging out with them.
What's that?
Hanging out with the wrong people.
Hanging out with the wrong people? It can be. What are you saying?
Trials.
Trials. That's a little more specific to it. Trials in the form of what? Life's distractions. Any distraction that you have in your natural life will try to thwart what you did receive from God. You heard a good message, you were encouraged, but then it was life that was waiting on you when you got out of church. Not necessarily a person. Life got real, and instead of clinging to their word, life began to take over at that moment. And it didn't let the seed produce what it would if you kept meditating on it instead of focusing on what was life. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So as we begin to mature, we have to learn to take what God gives us in the Bible studies and the church services and whatnot, and then expect life to be waiting on us, but hold on to the word we receive and apply it to our life. Okay? Otherwise, life will come in and it will begin to change your focus off of what you heard and what you connected with, and then you're no longer depending on the truth of God's word. You're depending on the truth of your situation. Does that make sense? That's where most of us are. And that's an honest and sincere struggle that we have. I even have that struggle sometimes still. But you have to recognize what it is so that you won't let the enemy steal your joy. And that's what it really amounts to. He's trying to allow, he can't get to you through people. You matured past that. He know that he's got you past paying attention, and even the people that speak big words, you can pay attention to them. You matured, you're growing. But now you're at this place where you're going to be having some hell on your job.
Right.
Some people in your family kind of getting on your nerves. You got bills that still got to be paid and all that. So now you have to mature to a place that you can trust what God speaks to be true, even in the midst and the face of all of that opposition and all of those challenges. Okay? That's what this is talking about. Questions, comments? We are, yeah. Exactly there.
Thorns also where things you need to get stuff out of your life too that continue to rob you of what's been placed in you.
Well, yes.
Like your friends, like you're telling us, you got to let go of friends and things
Right.
like that.
Yeah, there are different types of thorns. I'm glad she said that. Maybe I need to explain that too. There are different types of thorns. Some you can remove, and some you cannot. I person that you matured past or grown past, you can remove that thorn out your life. You can put, a situation that you still holding on to, that God has told you to let go of, you can let that go. But some situations you can't. You got bills, you got sicknesses, you got all these things that you can't necessarily remove yourself. So you got to learn to trust God's truth over all your thorns, and not let the thorns that you have rob you of holding on to the seeds that have been sown. That's what this is teaching us. All right, does that make sense? Any other questions or comments?
Like that supervisor.
Yes. You might not be able to remove it right now, but you cannot let that take the word of God from you, and you hold on to what God says, and that situation will eventually change. As long as you don't believe it.
I believe.
All right, there you go. I wanted to make you say you believe it, so that you know, okay. But that's what's going to be in your face. Whether you really believe what God said, or whether you believe what you see more than what God said. You have to make that decision at some point. And your actions will reveal what you actually believe. Okay? All right. So there we go. Now, let's finish it out. Talk about good ground.
But if these seeds did fall on good ground, where the plants produce 100.
All right, the first shout in that is if you have good ground, you will produce a crop. Don't miss it. Y'all see that? If you have good ground, you will produce a crop. Now, it's going to tell you some will produce different various measures of it, but don't miss the first part where we can all be excited about. Now, what determines if you have good ground? Say that, girl. Your faith in God.
Yeah.
That's what determines whether you have good ground. When you hear the word and you believe it, that's why I was saying it to her. When you hear the word and you believe it, the seed can now produce a harvest. Y'all remember we talked about the seed of faith and hope and all that? This is it becoming live in your life. So that's why we're doing what we're doing now. Faith cometh by what? Hearing what? The word. That's why we come to Bible study. It's to produce a good ground so that when God sows seeds in our life, we can produce a crop. Because without faith, you can't produce anything. Come on, y'all with me now. I'm trying to help you here. All right, yes, sir.
I'd like to comment on job. I work 2 jobs. The job that, I'm from Birmingham, the job that brought me to the hospital, I loved it. I thought I was retired. And they sold out to a company, and I started having hard times, and I lost my job. So then Lauren got me the job at Grimno, and I hated it every day. And I was coming home one day, and I was just praying. And it just dawned on me, I said, some after this job, I ain't working for nobody else. But sometimes I think that God, He be trying to tell us something. And when we can't get that message, we have to go another route in order to get that message. And, it's like, okay, God, if He never would have let me lost this first job, I've been still doing the same old thing. Okay, I came over here with the food world, guess what? I hate it, I've been doing this thing. But, He allowed me to do what I like to do. I like to mess with cars. And He allowed me to do that. I didn't have no money. When I went to the bank, they never checked my credit. And she could tell you, she's like, how did you get this money? and I built these bills, and I did it all on faith. And then God sent this angel, Reverend Jones, come around like every Saturday. And I never will forget. On Saturday night, I'm going to get on up if I had something to do. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning. And he got me in the pocket like, and I'm like, dude, what is you doing? And he said, well, I get my haircut at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I just, but every day, he would talk to me, and and that was my little thing to keep me going, but God, He got a way of coming to it, and sometimes we just got to listen.
Right. I'm glad you said it, because that's what I was going to tell you, is the word, he said, they coming by here and hearing about the word can come in many different ways. And he's describing that. It doesn't necessarily always have to be in a setting like this. Yeah, this is a good place for us to come and to learn and to hear from each other, and we should do it. It's right for us to do it. But like he said, if you're ready to hear, you could be somewhere at work or on TV or anywhere and hear a word from God. But if you hadn't spent time to know his voice, you'll miss it. But anytime God speaks and you apply faith to what it has been spoken, then you're creating a good ground for that seed to germinate. Okay? So I thank you for sharing that. That's true. And one other thing he talked about that I do want to help you with, sometimes God has to force you out of your comfort zone in order for you to be able to move into your next blessing. Sometimes you lose a job, you lose a house, you lose a car, lose a loved one even. Because God has now closed a door in a chapter and it's time for you to move forward. So everything that comes to an end is not necessarily a bad thing. It's painful, it's uncomfortable, it's not convenient, but it's temporary. It's a temporary place on your everlasting journey with God. Okay? All right. One other thing on the good ground. Let's go ahead and talk about what was produced. Follow on good ground, verse 8 and then 9.
Produce 100 or 60 or 30 times as much as was scattered. If you have ears, pay attention.
All right. Short version of that. What determines how much is produced? What's that? How much work you put into it? All right. Your faith. Your faith. Your faith. The good ground is been prepared by your faith, but we all have different measures and levels of faith. So some people can believe God for greater things than somebody else. Each faith is strong enough for God to move, and God honors any faith. He said as small as a mustard seed. But just because I have great faith, don't mean that you can stop me from receiving even greater from God. Some people have radical faith, like kind of what JR was talking about, where you have some situations that probably won't make sense to people.
Right.
But then you have some people that have the simple faith and they're moving at that pace. So you have to allow God to determine where you are and then seek him also for where he wants you to go. But it is a dangerous thing when God is ready for a new level of faith and you just still sticking with the small faith. Because at some point that can become no faith at all. Okay? Now I can't elaborate on that because we got to get out of here, but it can become, if you allow it to become a place of convenience, then you're no longer trusting God beyond what's convenient. That makes sense? And don't allow yourself to get stuck there and then you'll be back where you can something else. So we'll pick back up here. I'm going to finish this parable. That will probably be the last one I'll talk about, so if you want to read some of the other parables, you can. I'm also going to finish this book by the end of the year. I know it don't seem like it, but we're going to have to speed it up and get through it because in 2018 we're going to start something new. So you're going to need to probably stay on top of it because we won't necessarily be able to read every little bit in class, but I want you to be with me so that you can learn and get from this what we need to know. All right? Any other questions or comments? No class the next 2 weeks. We'll be back here on the 6th.
I got something.
All right, go ahead.
I just want to thank you and the First Lady, man. Y'all break stuff down so plain.
Yeah.
That even I can understand.
Well, I appreciate that, man. That's always our prayer, and I thank you all for your input and for all your love and support. Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Any prayer requests or praise reports? I did have one from Lavon. She asked me to pray for, they had a death in their family. So pray for the Thomas and the Coleman family. Anybody else have any prayer requests or praise reports?
Yes, Pastor, I have a prayer request for Jasmine and Patrick. Sit up here in the corner. Jasmine will be going into surgery in the morning to bring forth their baby. So she asked that everyone pray for her today. That's Martha Tibbs' daughter as well.
All right.
I got a prayer request, Elaine's co-worker will be here and his sister Friday, so keep him, Ralph Lane will
Okay.
be his sister Friday.
Yeah, pray for the Wallace and Benford family, we lost our brother.
Okay. All right. Anybody else?
I'd like to pray for, I know many of you might not remember, but I used to work in Decatur. So we got a call last week that the doctor had committed suicide in his office. So please pray for all of the ones who did work at the office, because now they don't have anywhere to go. So pray that they find something in peace.
Anybody else?
Yes, I ask just for continued prayer for the Hurt families. We've lost a lot of loved ones this year, so this will be the first holidays, going through the holidays.
Amen. Anybody else? Well, we will petition God on these things and anything else that we may be pondering in our heart. God, we thank you for your love and your faithfulness. We thank you for your presence in our lives. But we thank you for allowing us to grow stronger and stronger in your words. Lord, we thank you that you don't speak above our heads. You open your word up in a way that where we can understand it and more importantly, we apply it to our lives. Give us the strength to do what you say do, God, and the confidence to rely on you when nothing else makes sense. Lord, we thank you for every time we can look in the past of our lives and see how you blessed us, even when we were not aware of needing to be blessed. You've kept us when we couldn't keep ourselves. You've allowed us to come from a mighty long way. And we just want to take time to thank you, Lord. But we thank you for all the prayer requests that have gone forth from this circle and then the praise reports that have come back, reminding us that nothing's too hard for you, God, and that you're still here and you answered prayers. So we lift up the requests of those that have spoken this evening, God, and anything else that may be going on in our hearts. Lord, we place them in your very capable hands, Lord, and we trust that you will be whatever's needed and stand in the gap for those that can't even do anything for themselves. Touch and make heal and make whole as only you can, God, and allow us all to see your hand of blessing upon those that we have in our hearts. Lord, bless everybody in this circle. Allow them to carry your word with them wherever they go and be with us as we go to our different destinations. We thank you for everything that's been said and done, and we give you praise always in Jesus' name. Amen.